Alright, the big nor'easter freeze cold front is over in Florida. Back in t-shirts. I was kind of waiting to do this test till it got hot again. I didn't want the cold weather throwing off my test because it was hot the last time I ran it. Look at that, I got traffic holding me up. I can't open up my 50. Here's a 55-mile-an-hour road. Let's see if I can do it. 8,600 RPM. There's 48, 8,800, 49. Oh yeah, it's looking good. 9,000 RPM. 50. 51. 9,300 RPM. That's perfect. 52. 53. There's the old speed. 54. Woo, she's breaking up. Get back on the throttle here. 53. 54. Come on, baby. I'm gonna blow this engine up. Alright, I'm afraid to do this, but I put those 7.5 gram rollers in here. I hope I don't break this belt. But 54 miles an hour, I was freaking close. 9,700 RPM, that's more what I'm talking about. Give another run. 55, hell yeah! Woo! Alright guys, I don't recommend this mod, but I'm going to show you how I did it. Yeah, I think that belt, I was really worried it was going to get caught again inside that clutch and start tearing itself up and eating itself alive. I must be right on the ragged edge of it, but I achieved my goal, 55 miles an hour, whoop whoop, and with the big fat tire on there too. So that's what I wanted to do, fat tire 55. I'll show you how I did it, if you're curious. I tried to modify the old starter gear so it wouldn't rub. I ended up destroying it, so I bought a new one. They're cheap. But I'm really just kind of going backwards in what I'm trying to do. Definitely want to keep electric start. And if you remember from the last video, I was rubbing this starter gear with the belt. It was coming up and hitting it. Look at all that dust in there. I noticed I took my belt off and it had these cuts in it. Got burn marks all over my starter. This belt is traveling so high on that variator that it's rubbing the starter, and that's what's slowing me down, and that's why I can't, for the life of me, can't make RPM on this. So I've taken the starter gear out. There's 53. I may have to fix this issue and start back from scratch. Need to rethink this entire process. The speed limit on most of these 50s is 30 miles an hour. There's no restrictors anywhere in it to have it do that. This is an extra long case 139 QMB. I think Maddog's the only one that uses it. I can't find him anywhere else. So it runs this 788 belt. Maybe it's a speed restrictor. Maybe it's too long. So if the distance from this nut to this nut is 8.75, you have a regular 139 QMB. If this distance is 10 inches, you have a long case 139 QMB. Ours is 11 inches. The regular case calls for a 669 belt. The long case calls for a 723 belt. The 788 shouldn't be too long mathematically, but it acts like it's too long. So I'm going to shorten it. When you buy a 150, the belt's an 835, and it goes to about right here on a 150. It doesn't quite go all the way up the variator. So one of the speed tricks on a 150 is to go from an 835 belt to an 842 belt, and it goes higher up on the variator because it's longer. So the belt actually will travel up higher, goes a greater distance around as the engine spins, so the belt goes faster, but it's a gear up mod. Some 150s won't do it. You gotta have some power to pull that mod off. Well, why not just keep getting a longer belt? The issue is, if my belt's at the top of the variator right now, and I get a longer belt, the belt's gonna come out this way. It's not gonna come all the way to the shaft. It's gonna be out here somewhere. So that's gonna gear it back lower. The bike's gonna go slower. The further this belt comes out on this clutch, it gets slower. The further it comes in, it spins the wheel faster. So there's a fine balance between getting it out on the variator and in on the clutch. Although we want to get a longer belt on that 150 to pull it out this way, we don't want it so long that on the clutch side it doesn't go all the way into the axle or to the shaft. And it seems like that 842 belt on the 150 does both. It goes all the way into the shaft and to the outside of the variator. So it's the best of both worlds. But what if this belt, the 788, were too darn long? One thing that struck me as odd about the 788 is when I put the 95mm variator on here, it still went all the way to the edge of the variator, even hitting the starter. So maybe this belt is not going all the way to the shaft on the clutch. Maybe I need a shorter belt and I need to let it ride lower on the variator. And that might be a better option. So I looked for some shorter belts. All I could find is this one here. So 781, that's 7mm shorter. My theory is if this belt goes all the way to the outside and even a little bit beyond, enough to hit that starter, then it's not being stopped by this shaft down here. So if I get a shorter belt, it'll A, be stopped by this shaft because it'll be a little bit shorter, but also it won't be able to travel so high on this variator that it hits the starter. So even if this belt, the 788, were currently against that shaft, then a shorter belt would help because it would not hit the starter. But I'm thinking that this belt is not up against the shaft. And if that's the case, I might actually gain top speed with a shorter belt, if that makes sense. Every belt company has their own sizing, I guess, kind of like shoes. Some run big, some run small. But I got this belt here. I wanted to get a Gates Power Link, which it says it is, 781, so 7mm shorter by 18.5, a little bit thicker. The regular Gates Power Link is at 18.1. I can't imagine that's going to be that big of a difference. And it's 28 degrees, and I think this is 28 also. I think they're supposed to be 30, but close enough for government work. Try to put this on, see if it'll fit. It's going to take a stretch. More than that. Gotta pull that clutch apart. There you go, like that. 90cc big bore, NCY cam, 24mm CVK, 95mm variator with 4-gram weights, 781 belt, stock gearing. Let's see what the hell happens. 8,600 on the RPM. Didn't really ever feel a shift. Well, that was bizarre. I have no idea why my video quit working while I was riding, but it just stopped. Anyway, doesn't really matter. That was just a preliminary run with the shorter belt, 49 miles an hour. So I'm, 4 miles an hour slower than my top speed, but I had 9,120 RPM. So that's good. That's exactly what I wanted to do. So we got to have enough weight to squish this contra spring all the way up into the clutch housing. And that's why if you go to a heavier contra spring, you're probably going to want heavier weights to overcome that spring. But then again, if you get too heavy, it's going to act just like the stock little weights. Let's pretend we had unlimited horsepower on this bike and we could just turn anything. We had 1,000 horsepower. And now we're not worried about bogging the bike down. We just want to get this belt to the fastest position. That's all the way around that shaft. So we would throw in super heavy weights. If we don't have the horsepower to run the gearing and the bike with this all the way around the shaft, then we want lighter weights to keep it from going down there. And that might be what Maddog's doing with these little 50s. So we're going to find out. We're going to put some super ass heavy weights in here and see if I can get this to go higher. And we'll know for sure we're getting this belt to the maximum speed spot. I had these 4-gram weights in here. I'm going to go ahead and go up to 7. I know that's probably too big, but this is not really for tuning. This is just to see if I'm getting everything out of this belt I can. And we'll give it another test run. If I'm using all this belt, if that belt's going all the way down to that shaft and I'm getting my maximum top speed with this belt, putting heavier weights in here, I should notice no change in RPM and no change in top speed, because it should go there. The weight should not matter if I'm already getting this belt all the way down there and it's going as high as it can on the variator. And right now it's going to right here. So if that doesn't change, then I know the belt is probably too short. But if it changes, then I know the spring was too strong for the belt. The heavier weights come out a lot quicker and the bike won't idle without taking off. May have to lower the idle to solve that. Get past the popo this time. We'll open this baby up. I don't know why my stupid camera keeps dying. I'm gonna try to see what it says.
No, my helmet cam keeps dying. Battery either stuck in there, it's all swelled up. GoPro, this one's probably trash. About to start a Chinese battery fire. Yeah, I'll never buy another GoPro again. I've got 2 of them. They're very proprietary, they're very gimmicky and glitchy, and always giving you problems. There's gotta be something better out there. I don't know, haven't done the research on it. The last run that I didn't record, very interesting. I think I found the limiting factor on these Maddog 50s. I think the restriction is this belt size. This 781 belt's doing better. I did get a lower RPM. So that means even this 781 is long and wasn't going all the way to the shaft. So I lowered the RPM with those 7-gram rollers, bringing that belt in even tighter. And the max RPM was 8,200, and I was doing 9,100 before with the 4 grams. So I can still gram tune this thing. Now my top speed was 48, and it was 49 before. So I did lose speed, which means again I don't have the horsepower to make this bike go much faster, but there's some fine tuning in there. Obviously I've got to get that 4 miles an hour back somewhere to get it to 53, but I was hoping to get it over 53. We're not rubbing the starter with the belt, so we got that going for us, which means we're not using this entire variator. Now I'm pretty sure those 7-gram rollers were taking me all the way down, and you can see I'm still only right there. So I got a little bit higher, but not much. If you look at the 3 different size variators, your stock 87, the NCY Performance 89 millimeter, and then of course the 95 millimeter Polini. I'm going out to 31. Looks like that means I could run this 89 no problems at all. Have a lighter variator, probably a better variator. I really like this NCY one. It's the gold variator. It's got some kind of plating in there. It makes it supposed to work better. I think it does work better. I've never liked this 95, so since I'm not using this entire variator, I'll probably go back to this NCY. I still have that much left based on where this went, but I'm curious if you guys can just run the stock variator, and it looks like you can. You can run the stock variator with this shorter belt and get the exact speed I just got, 49 miles an hour. Providing you have enough horsepower, you could just change to a shorter belt and probably get higher miles an hour, because it's going to bring that belt further down in here. It's going to be pretty high geared when it drops down in there, so you're going to have some horsepower. With this big bore kit cam and this 24 millimeter carburetor, I barely got the horsepower to run it down in there. I was only doing 8,200 RPM, and I couldn't seem to go more with the 7-gram rollers when I had it all the way down in here. I just have a feeling I'll probably settle on these 6.5s, or maybe these 5s. But I'm gonna try 9-gram rollers in there, just for shits and grins. If there's no change, if I don't go higher than that, then that means the belt's all the way down in there. If there is a change, I'll lose RPM. I may not gain top speed, but I'll lose RPM for sure, because the belt will go higher and the RPMs of the engine will slow down as this rear wheel drags it down.
9-gram rollers, if it lowers the RPM, that belt's way too long.
Stupid GoPro. Didn't work again on the ride. Basically, I went 44, I think, on that run, 45. Or not that fast. But the RPM was way down at 7,000. So really lowered the RPM with the 9-gram rollers. I had turned in the neighborhood, gave it the gas. It seemed like it lugged the bike down. It was stuck in high gear. Then I gave it the gas. Then nothing happened. It just spun the engine. But of course that means either the variator's fallen off or the belt's broke. One or the other. And then I pushed the bike all the way home.
I think the nut fell off inside there, and the variator basically came off the splines, so it's all falling apart in there. No big deal. It's happened before. Just have to do the walk of shame.
Wasn't too far, about 3 or 4 blocks. It rolls real nice though. And here's the reveal on what happened. Oh boy, the unboxing reveal. Here we go. Oh, look at that. What the hell happened there? What a mess. How to explain this one? My bolt did not come off, but this belt sure broke apart. Brand new. It was when I put the 9-gram rollers on. It just shredded it. That was a brand new $30 belt. What the hell? Kind of weird, and it really feels cooked. Let's review what happened. The combination of the 95mm variator and the 781 belt made the belt too short. I think with the stock variator, it may not have done that. Maybe even with the 89. I'm gonna try it and see. So the belt definitely got deep in the clutch. Matter of fact, it got so deep that the belt got stuck in this flat part down here. And once it got stuck in the flat part, it couldn't come back up. I remember the bike bogging down a little bit before I made that right turn and tried to slow down. It was like stuck in high gear because the belt was stuck down inside here. And since the belt wouldn't come back up, it just turned and burned on the variator side, most likely, because this belt was frozen here, so it's spinning the whole belt around on the variator and it's heating up, and I think it just basically burned the belt up. The belt is real brittle, like it's been cooked. It's super crispy, so I imagine the belt just got cooked and got hot. So the combination makes the 781 too short. I think if I run the 89mm variator or the stock 87, I can still use a 781 and get the belt deeper in here. To prevent this from happening again, I'm just not going to use 9-gram rollers. I'm not going to go above probably 7-gram rollers. Probably be in 4 to 6-gram range. And I don't think that'll be enough weight to get the belt stuck in there. So I got to order another belt. So I have no idea how high it went on the variator, but I do know that it's high enough that it gears it down more than I want. So I can do away with a 95mm variator. I'm going to go back to the NCY 89mm variator. I'm guessing around 5 or 6.5 grams are going to be the weights I want. And I kind of like that short belt. I think I'm going to order another short belt. And I'm going to combo it with the 89 and one of these. I'm going to tune it. I'm going to tune it with rollers.